Welcome to the Wildcast Podcast, coming to you from Wildcast Studios with your hosts Adam Lund and Jeremy Boucher.
Welcome into a very special episode of the Wildcast Podcast presented by Discount Flooring Center, a division of Fabulous Flooring, home to the largest variety of high-end current and discontinued lines in hardwood, ceramic tile, laminate flooring, luxury model tiles, and blinds for immediate purchase. And for you DIYers out there, a state-of-the-art technology giving you a realistic vision of your project. Located at 320 Collishaw Street, or call them at 506-859-9909. As I said, it is a special episode. It's Hockey Day in Canada week here in Moncton. I am your host, Adam Lund, and I am always joined by your favorite co-host, Mr. Jeremy Boucher. How are you doing today?
Pretty good. You know, I'm a man of the word with my Starbucks today here. So
a man of the word with my Hockey Day in Canada
there
cup,
you go.
because I don't drink coffee. We are pleased to be joined by a man who needs no introduction. He is the best in the biz, NHL Insider from Hockey Night Canada and Sportsnet. We're very pleased to be joined by Mr. Elliote Friedman. Elliote, how are you today?
I have one question right off the bat. You
What's
don't
that?
drink coffee? How do you function?
I've wondered that for 10 years working with this guy.
I drink the liquid that gives me wings. That's what I drink. I
understand.
I have one of those first things in the morning, and kind of keeps me going all day. And I have 11-month-old that gives me the energy to keep going. So,
I understand. I understand that too. Yes, I get that completely. But the first thing I heard was don't drink coffee. I didn't drink coffee until I was about 35. So I am like you in some ways, but eventually I started dating the woman who's now my wife, and she got me into it, and I couldn't imagine myself without it.
Well, I'm assuming what you do, you have to be up all hours of the night. So coffee definitely makes a difference.
Yes, it does. I don't like to drink it after certain points of the day, but I find that on Saturday nights, sometimes I need to. You know, working with guys like BXA puts you to sleep, so I need the coffee to keep me going. But generally, I try to avoid it after a certain hour of the day.
I was waiting to see how long it was going to take for a BX's shot, and I appreciate that was 2 minutes in. So I enjoy
the opening. I hope that was the under. I really hope that was the under.
I guess I'll jump right into it. Of course, we're a junior hockey podcast, so a lot of news in the past year on the changing landscape of the CHL. I guess just what is the NHL's involvement in, I guess, trying to make this marriage work between the NCAA trying to find the right age, the USHL, and the CHL, while trying to get the best development for their league?
I think that's, obviously I completely understand why, honestly, Jeremy, that would be your number one question. I think that they're still trying to figure it out, to be perfectly honest. I think some people get upset when I say this, but I think the biggest concern early on has been for the USHL. If you take a look at it, the NCAA is probably always going to be fine. The CHL is probably always going to be fine. The NCAA gets the oldest players, so there's a natural flow that players would hit a certain age and they'd want to continue playing. And the NCAA is the one that's the oldest, so it gives you it's always going to be there as an option. The CHL has a great reputation for developing players. I think right now they're getting used to seeing some of their best players leave at a certain point. That's been the biggest adjustment for the CHL, is seeing players like McKenna leave them and go somewhere else. But, at a certain age, it's going to be the place where a lot of people are going to want to play. So I think the CHL, even though they're nervous and not thrilled about guys leaving, I think their overall position in the ecosystem makes them safe. I think the USHL, there were a lot of players who left the USHL for the CHL this year. And one of the reasons I think the NCAA has had some advantage over the CHL is that in some of their locations, the facilities are better. And I would say that CHL has that same advantage over the USHL. In many of their locations, the facilities are better. But The USHL is a necessary part of the group. They just have made a big deal about one of their prospects leaving for the NCAA, who's going to be a high pick this year. That was a big win for them, that they got a kid who could be the number one pick in the draft this year. And I think the NHL has been, and actually the USHL recently at the NHL's Board of Governors, they actually had chance to make a presentation about their importance. So I think the NHL has always been concerned for it. And I think the NHL wants to make sure it's safe. I've even had people in the CHL tell me it's not a great thing for all the US kids to be leaving and not have a league that they feel good enough about there. So I think there's a lot of work being done to make sure the USHL is safe and secure.
Yeah. We're not going to make this all hockey talk. Some of this we want to get to know Elliote Friedman, the person, as well. I know you mentioned that.
I don't know if that's where you really want to go, but okay.
But you mentioned you only started drinking coffee when you were 35, so safe to assume that's only been a couple of years now. So, but you've been around. I really like you.
I always said you were my favorite. Yes.
All right, I'll the check's in the mail, I assume then. So,
but put that in your bio.
Yeah,
Elliote says I'm the favorite.
Elliote's favorite person. Mm-hmm. Yeah, but I mean, I remember you know, your days on CFL on CBC, and I'm sure there's 1,000 different answers that you could say here, but I have to ask, what's the most rewarding aspect of your job?
Well, that's a great question. I'm really, to be honest, as I've gotten older, I'm really not much of a philosopher. I don't think about these things a lot unless I get asked them. I think the number one thing that is most rewarding about my job is it's created a situation where I can create a good life for my wife and son. I would say that's the number one thing about it. Every family has its challenges. I'm no different than anybody else, but overall, we can. I've built up a situation where we live a pretty happy life, and I would say that's the number one thing. I think anybody out there, not to get too deep or anything, but I think everybody out there would understand if you have a relatively calm home life, your outlook on many things is much better. And I'm happy to say that we can. I think other than that, like people have always asked me if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing? And the answer would be, I would be a lawyer and I'd be miserable. So I think the most satisfying thing I would say about it is that, I have an existence that I mostly really enjoy. And, what I do is not rocket science. I'm not saving lives. But we get a lot of people who will write about the podcast and stuff, and they'll say, look, it's a really good distraction in my day. Or if they see me at work on TV and they get a good couple of laughs out of it and they feel a little bit more informed. And I would say that that's it. Like this is a very competitive business to get into. The job you guys do, I'm sure there's a lot of people who like the Wildcats who would love to be doing what you guys do, and you guys get to do it. Yep. So I think, I'm probably no different than both of you. I get a chance to work in something that can be really fun and really exciting. And I consider myself very lucky to do it.
And yeah, we enjoy everything that you do, and the way you just transitioned into my next question was absolutely perfect without knowing what it's coming. I
do a lot of things without knowing what I'm doing. I have to say that.
I said it off the top, like one of the best in the business and one of the most respected insiders probably in the four major sports. I mean, there's not a lot of guys I follow for different trades for different sports. You're obviously one of them. So it's kind of a two-part question. I guess, how does someone get into the line of work of being an insider? And as well, do you ever get the text from the GMs that's like, hey, we'd like to move player X. Can you do what you do to maybe bump his value up by saying we got 4 or 5 teams calling? Is that something that happens to you on kind of a general basis?
So let me answer the second question first. It doesn't happen on a daily basis. I actually find It probably happens less than it used to, just because I think that one thing that teams have become a little more afraid of, and I kind of understand it, is social media noise. It used to be that wasn't a thing. If there was breaking news, it either happened on TV at a certain time, or on the radio at a certain time, or in the newspaper the next morning, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't as all-consuming 24/7 as it is now. And I think that in this day and age, a team with the noise being what it can be, and you don't control social media. That's one thing. It's like the mob, right? Like there have been times I've said something, I'm like, oh, that's going to be crazy on social, and nothing happens.
Yeah.
And there's going to be other times where I say something, I'm like, no one's going to care about that. And the next thing, it's a fiasco. So that's part of the problem, is that it's totally uncontrollable. And so I think teams are nervous about it. Players are nervous about it. So I think there's less of that than happens. But, one story I have told is that there was a time, and it was quite a few years ago, probably about a decade ago, where a team called me and said, look, we're going to tell you something, and I'm going to tell you right away that we're floating this. We want to see the reaction in the market. And I said, look, I need to know one thing before I do this. Is it true? Like, could this happen? I'm not doing something if it's a complete lie or just a plant to fool around with people's heads.
Right.
And they said to me, no, it's true. It's something we're considering. So I reported that there was a player on the block, and I remember a few days later, I went back to check in, and I said, where does this stand? And the guy kind of laughed a bit, and he said, it didn't happen, did it? And I go, no, it didn't. And he goes, well, that's how you know where it stands. And I think what he was doing was, it was with more time to look back at it, 2020 hindsight, it was something that he didn't want to do, that the owner wanted to do, and just judge. And when he saw the reaction, the owner backed down. So that it's rare, but it does happen. As for how I got into this, I never really thought that this would be where I would end up, to be honest. There's a lot of things about where I am that I never really thought I would end up, to be honest. But I really loved, I think that the number one thing that happens is I came in at a time where my big break was the Raptors arriving in Toronto. And at that time, there weren't a lot of people that covered basketball or liked basketball around. And I was working at the fan radio, and just the timing was, as often in life, it's all about timing, right? And I kind of started to make my way and be around a bit more, and the fan was allowing me to volunteer. And then they said, they hired me full time and said, you're going to cover the Raptors. And I was around a lot. I didn't travel, but I was at every game. I was at every practice. I love talking to people. I just love getting to know people. It's not always something that's been easy for me, but I like learning about how people are good at what they do, and what makes people good at what they do. And, I did a good job of it, and I just kept going and going and going. And when I got hired at Hockey Night in Canada, I was a rinkside reporter, which I loved. I missed doing that job. I really loved being a rinkside reporter. But there was a point where Pierre LeBrun was kind of like the insider in the second intermissions in the hot stove, and Pierre left. He got a job at TSN, and he had to leave Hockey Night in Canada. And they came to me after, and they said, you're taking over. And it wasn't really a request. It was, you're doing this. So that's when I kind of made the move. And I did both for a time. I was both a sideline reporter and an insider at CBC. And when I got to Sportsnet, I did it, I think, for 2 years. And then after 2 years, they said, Elliot, you're on our panel now full time. You're not a ringside reporter anymore. And I said, I really like it. And they said, well, we need you in the studio. And again, it wasn't a request. So that's kind of when I became a full-time insider.
It's a pretty cool story. I like
cool.
that.
Yeah.
On social media, you bring it up, and there's a lot of, there's so-called insiders. They want to be insiders for the, the clicks and the likes. But really, if there's any youngsters out there girls or boys who want to be the next Elliote Friedman, what's your message to them?
Aim higher. You know what? I kind of look at it this way. The number one thing I tell people is actually not how to do the job. It's how to react to what's out there. I think it's social media. It's always been a challenge for people mentally. I think it's becoming even more of a challenge for people mentally. Like I just started something in the new year where every hour I set and I can't do it every hour, but I'm really trying to stick to it. I set my timer for 10 minutes on my phone and I just don't look at my phone for 10 minutes. I'm trying to get better at that. I don't know how successful I'm going to be.
Good luck in that in March.
Yeah, well, in March I won't be doing it. I can tell you that. At least the first week in March.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I'm aware of, especially now as a father, I've got a 14-year-old son, is just what that can do to people's brains and even my own. And, the number one thing I think is if you're going to do this, if you're going to be a public figure in every way, you have to accept some level of criticism and that people are going to come at you. I talked about it last week with Ron when we talked about what happened with the Ottawa Senators, is that when you become a public figure, you sign up for this to some degree. But there's a line and everybody has to decide where that line is. And the number one thing I tell people is you cannot be afraid. Like some people are like, oh, I don't want to block people because I don't want to give them a victory. I think that's stupid. I think that if someone is really upsetting you, then you should block them or you should use mute terms or you should set filters. I talked a lot to people about I'm fortunate. I have 900,000 followers. I'm sure some of them are bots, but a lot of them appear to be real. And, I think that, for example, if 1% of those people don't like something I say, it's a lot. Like it feels like a lot. Mm-hmm. And, I say to people that you shouldn't be afraid to block or mute people who you think are like, for me to block or mute you, you've really got to be like a bad person, to be honest. Yeah. But I tell people you shouldn't be ashamed of it. You shouldn't accept it. And also, like, aside from constructive criticism, legit constructive criticism, I tell them you have to decrease the amount of people whose opinion actually matters to you. So, like, who do I, some people, they write me with legitimate criticism. I'm like, hey, you know what? That's fair. But if it gets to like really harsh stuff, the only people I really worry about are my wife, because she's my wife. Yeah. And also she's really good at telling me when I'm over the line. You have to worry about what your employer thinks of you and, my good friends, because they have your best interest in mind. And, sometimes there's people in the business who don't like something you say and you have to listen to them and give them their fair time, obviously. But I think it's really important that if you're going to go out there and put yourself out there, you really keep a tight circle on the people whose opinions matter to you, or else you will go completely insane. So that's the number one advice I give people. The other thing I'll just say is, number two, I guess, treat other people the way you would hope to be treated. I still try that. I think it's very easy when you never see anyone or don't see people to, say things or write things, because there's just no consequences, right? And I think in the social media age, it's even more dangerous. So I say, treat others the way you want to be treated and don't say anything to anyone that you wouldn't dare say to their face. One of the things I try to do is whenever there's a morning skate in Toronto, I always go, whether it's the Leafs skating or another team skating. And if I ever report something that I know someone's not going to be mad at, the next chance I get, I'm going to see them face to face. And that hasn't always been easy. That hasn't always been positive. I'll say that. That's life in the big city. But I think you have to do it. I think you really have to go. One of the stories I tell was Dave Perkins, who was the old sports editor and columnist for the Toronto Star. He wrote a big column in 1993 when the Blue Jays brought back Tony Fernandez. And he basically says, "Why are they bringing this guy back? He's a cancer in the clubhouse." And I was there the next day. It was very early in my career, and he walked right in and he walked right up to Tony Fernandez and said, "You know what I wrote? What do you have to say?" And I remember other players watching this. They were like, "Wow, I want to see how this turns out." Yeah. And I always just remembered that. And I would say this too, guys, like, be visible. Like go to as many practices as you can. I don't get a chance to go to as much practice anymore, but I go to game day skates. I still do travel and see people. I reach out to people as much as I can just to say hello. I find being visible is a big part of it too.
And speaking of being visible, you guys have been, Sportsnet's been doing Hockey Day in Canada now for 26 years, which is half my life, which is crazy. I guess you've been to so many cities.
You look good for 52. Thanks. I got to tell you, man. It must be the no coffee.
Exactly. There you go. You met so many fans, so many people. Other than being on great podcasts like this one, I guess, what are your favorite parts about these week-long activities?
You know what? It really bothered me for a few years that we didn't get to go on site. I wasn't always able to go on site, and for example, I missed the one in Yukon, and even though those guys froze, I would have loved to have been there. And so the thing I like the most is just being on site. Like, I got in Wednesday. I went over to the arena I went over to Avenir on Wednesday night for the draft. And then we went to Gallagher's for a few minutes after to have a couple pints and listen to some great music. And immediately I just feel good, right? I like being in the city where it is. And today I've got this. And then, Coffee Kyle and I are going for a walk after. He's already found a coffee place. So we're going to go as soon as we're done the podcast. And this is not me telling you to rush. I'm just saying as soon as we're done the podcast, we're going to go for a walk and have a coffee. And I'm going to take a walk. We have the live 32 Thoughts taping in the banquet tonight. But at some point, I'll go for a walk around. And Kevin and I have our lobster thing tomorrow. And so at some point, I'll go for a walk around and just walking around. Like, I've been to New Brunswick before. I've been to St. John. I've been to Fredericton, but I've never been to Moncton. And to me, the best part about it is just seeing somewhere new. I love it. I'd never been to Lloydminster before I did it. I'd been to Canmore before, but I'd never been to Victoria before when I got there. I love going out and seeing Canada. I love going out to see new places, and I like going out to meet new people.
If that said coffee shop is the Dandelion Cafe, you're in for a good time. So let's.
What? I'm going to text them right now as we're doing it. I'm going to find out.
It's right across from the Avenir Center, right across from the Hyatt Hotel. So it's good little spot.
I'm texting him right now. I just asked him, is it the Dandelion Cafe? And if it's not, I'm going to tell him he's a gigantic loser, according to the Moncton Wildcat podcast.
Just gonna plug. I'm just gonna plug my favorite cafe there into the episode here while we can. Good Times in the Maritimes is obviously a saying that
he says it's not. I'm ripping him.
No. I'll have to tell the owners that they'll have to get the message out a little better.
Yeah. I'm gonna say, well, you know what? There's always Friday. There's always Saturday, right? So
there you go.
Based on your recommendation, I will be hitting it up at some point this weekend. Yes,
love it. I'll let them know you'll be stopping by.
Okay.
Myself and Adam, we have a pretty good relationship, despite Adam being an Oilers fan and me being a Flames fan.
Really?
From yeah.
I got to ask you guys this. Like, my experience with Atlantic Canada is it's either Leafs, Canadians, or Bruins, right? Yeah. So how did you guys end up? Are you guys from here?
No.
So I am originally from Moncton. Yeah. So to start with, being a Flames fan, it's just the name stuck with me from the Moncton Golden Flames days. I was 4 years old.
Oh, of course. Right. They played here, AHL team. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
4 years old when Brett Hull won, AHL Rookie of the Year, right? So it's it's been a while. So Adam's from Alberta, so you can kind of get the connection there.
I grew up in Hannah, right between both, and my family weren't big hockey fans. Like my dad liked the Flames, so as a little kid I liked him. But as I grew up, he's like, I don't care who you like, pick a team. So I enjoy misery, I guess. So I picked the Oilers in the decade of
I gotta tell you, you could have picked a lot more misery than the Oilers.
Well, for a good part of my sports life, I had the Buccaneers
That's
and
true.
the Oilers, and I had
The
no playoff
Buccaneers.
success. Oh yeah, I didn't know what playoffs were for many, many years. So it's been quite a fun couple of years here.
So Hannah, like you're a Lanny McDonald guy then, right?
Yeah, my dad went to school with him. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yep. Yeah. My dad went to school with him. He's met him, knows him. Like one time we were in Drumheller at an AJ game, and Lanny was there, and it was a bunch of friends, and I was like, Alan says hi, and he was like, that's a name from the past I haven't heard. How's your dad doing? So yeah, no, they grew up together. My dad always jokes that they flipped a coin and it was between playing hockey or doing hair. And Lanny won the coin toss, so he got to go play hockey. And my dad ended up cutting hair for a long time in his life before I was born.
That's hilarious, man. That's a great story, man.
Yeah.
Barber's a great job. Great job.
Yeah.
He went to the same high school as Nickelback shot the photograph music video for. So, I mean, he's got probably more stories than.
Yeah, that's other than the start of Photograph, the rest of the video is my whole hometown.
That is fantastic. These are good stories. I like this. You guys should be on the show better than I am. You guys should be interviewing each other.
Yeah. He's probably got more stories than I got.
Yeah.
But we're a couple months away from the NHL trade period, and I said kind of want to keep the hockey talk away. But I guess from an Oilers standpoint and a Flames standpoint, what's one move that you'd like to see each team make prior to the deadline?
Well, as we tape this interview, I think the Rasmus Anderson stuff is heating up for Calgary. Like that's one I'm watching. It's right at the top of my list of things I'm watching right now. Yeah. That is Rasmus Anderson. So I like that's so I don't know if I would say I would like to see it, but it's the number one, but it's the thing I'm kind of focused on. I think that the Flames would like to do it before the Olympics, and the Olympic break in the NHL hits on the 5th. So that's 21 days from now, exactly 3 weeks. But I think they'd like to get it done before then. And I think Anderson would like it done before then. And I think right now they're kind of in that phase where they're moving things along, and it could happen at any time, basically. So I'm just watching out for that. It's one of those situations where you're sitting there saying, I know this is going to happen. I just can't tell you when it's going to happen. But you have to be ready for it. The Oilers to me are really interesting. I think that, they've got a few things on the go. They've got 3 goalies now. What are they going to do with that? I also think that, they've got the Mangiapane situation where he's not 100% happy there, and they'll deal with that because they've got to open up the cap room. But I see the Oilers as a team that's going to add. They want to win. And, I think while McDavid and Draisaitl are in their prime, they're going to treat it like we're going to try to win every year, right?
Yeah.
And so that is what when I'm looking at the Oilers, I never think about what they're doing to subtract necessarily. Like Mangiapane is the name because we know that that's going on, but I'm always wondering what are they going to do to add that we're not seeing.
Yeah, there's a guy in division I would love to add, and I've wanted to add him to the Oilers for many, many years, but I don't.
Who's that?
Garland. I think Connor Garland is the perfect player for the Oilers. Like
that's a really interesting one.
His I guess piss and vinegar. Put him on that line with Draisaitl to go get pucks. And I don't know how the cap's going to work, obviously, because I know that they're.
That's not your problem. That's not
my problem. But in a fantasy world where I can flip off the cap in a video game world, I would like Connor Garland to be an Oiler.
One of the guys, that's a nice pick. I don't mind that. That's good. That's thoughtful. One of the guys I've wondered about for them, and I'm not sure he's going to end up there, but it's this kind of a player, is Charlie Coyle, like a third line center kind of guy. That's the guy I'd be going after if I was them too, because he's versatile and he's like a strong guy.
Yeah. Totally biased pick of Connor Garland here with a Moncton Wildcats podcast, right? So
you know what? I missed that. He's on Hockey Day. He's on After Hours with Scott Oak on Saturday night. Yes.
Oh, perfect.
They
You'll have
saved
to-
him for this particular day.
You'll have to message Scott and make sure you ask Connor Garland about his favorite restaurant in Riverview.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm texting Scott right now.
Yeah. From us, his favorite restaurant in Riverview.
Yeah.
Okay. Hold on one sec.
And actually, you can ask him as well about how he met his Moncton Wildcats teammates for the first time on their Quebec road trip.
Okay,
That's
so
the story.
I'm saying you guys have 2 questions for Connor.
Yeah.
And the first one is, what is his favorite restaurant
In Riverview.
Riverview. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the second one would be the story about how he met his Moncton Wildcats teammates for the first time.
Okay.
We've
All
had him
right.
on the show before, and he shared those stories with us, and it's worth being heard on a national broadcast. Let's put it that way.
Okay. And so I'm actually telling him that I've been assured that these are good questions, because if I don't tell him that, he'll think I'm sabotaging him.
It'd be good publicity as well for a local restaurant and
Yes.
Local podcast.
yeah, and a local podcast, a local restaurant review. So we need. I think both would be pretty appreciative of of his answers.
Okay, I sent it to him, so we'll see. It's all right now as we do this. It's only 7:45 a.m. in Winnipeg. I'm not sure if he's awake.
Well, he'll have a good morning message to go through. We know you got to get to your coffee with Kyle here, so we'll wrap things up.
No worries. Take your time. Like he can. he can
in
wait.
all honesty, this was the last question I have. So one of the big events, this weekend is the game Saturday night at the Avenir between, Chicoutimi and Moncton. Saguenay's, first in the queue, first in the CHL top 10. Moncton second in the queue, sixth in the CHL top 10.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know, Elliot, what are your abbreviations going into that matchup?
That's a good one. Moncton would be Moon. Off the top of my head, I can just say
I like
Moon.
that one.
Moon. Okay, I'm looking at Chicoutimi. This would have to be Wild.
That's what we're banking
I can
on,
see
to be
it.
honest with you.
I can see it right now. It's CC. CICI.
Moon
CC Moon.
We love
Perfect.
it.
Well,
Perfect.
the home
That
team
will be-
always goes. The home team always goes second.
Yeah.
So it's CC
Perfect.
Moon.
I was going to go a different route and go Moto and then CHIT with maybe a different pronunciation, but
That's actually really funny. I tip my cap to you. First of all, that would probably be against Rogers' corporate social media standards. But also, like, the one thing I do try to do is always involves the first letter and the last letter, right? So I have to be. So, like, I can't do it the way that you suggested for Moncton Moto, but CC Moon would be my answer. But I think the creativity is very good.
Yeah, we love it.
That sounds like a certain type of movie character, CC Moon. That will be in my game
that's
day
right.
tweet. So we appreciate that. Like Jeremy said, like, you're off to your coffee walk with Kyle. So, man, we cannot thank you enough for taking the time to be on our show. It's a pleasure to watch what you do and follow along. And thanks for taking the time this morning to join us.
Well, guys, it's my pleasure. Like, legitimately great questions. Like, some things I don't get asked a lot, so I appreciate that. And I'm looking at the standings as you were talking about this, and it's sort of like right now, like, it's sort of like the Central Division in the NHL where they've got Colorado, Dallas, and Minnesota. Yeah. I'm seeing it right now where Chicoutimi and Moncton are 1-2 in the league, and there's 8 points between Moncton and the top team in the Western Conference. Like, that's a battle. So I wish the Wildcats good luck, and I always believe that the better teams you beat along the way, the more satisfying it is. So I hope it's a really satisfying season for you guys.
It was last year, and we're hoping to do it again this year. So
nice.
All right, man. Appreciate the time, and have a good rest of your week in Moncton.
All right, guys. Thanks for the great hospitality. Take care.
Thanks, Elliot. Take
You
care.
too. There we go. That was fun.
Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. I mean, to get a guy like that is huge for us, but like, I'm so nervous going into it. I'm not gonna lie to you.
No, there's no need to be nervous. He's obviously a super laid back guy, and open to conversation. So, look, originally we only had 15 minutes planned, and we got a half hour in with Elliot. So, he doubled his for being 10 minutes late. He doubled his time with us. So we'll take that ROI all day.
Yeah, that's coming in out of the trade period. The ROI that you talk about, we'll take that any day of the week. And just a good guy. He's what you see on TV with him and BX, I think, is exactly what you see. When you meet the person. So again, can't thank him enough as well. Can't thank Charles Olskamp and Claudia Frutti for making this interview happen. Like we said, it was probably one of the most recognizable names, and we're just happy to be a part of this week. And we hope you enjoyed this episode. Again, it's a big one on Saturday. Less than 1,000 tickets, I think. So make sure to get your tickets on Ticketmaster and enjoy it. It's a finals preview. It's CC Moon. So make sure you're there. And for Jeremy, I'm Adam. We'll see you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Wildcast Podcast. Follow us on social media at Moncton Wildcast.